Hi guys, welcome to another video. So I'm Charlie and this is Valmos Gaming Systems, and today I'll be reviewing this GPU. Bring it forward to the camera. So this is an AMD Radeon 6800 XT and 16GB of VRAM, and it is quite a big GPU. You can see it covers my whole face. Yeah, it's pretty long as well. It's quite a chunky boy. Specifically this, if I flip it around on the camera, it's the camera is reversed. I'm using OBS Droid Cam, so the figures seem flipped, but basically this is a Radeon Sapphire Nitro Plus edition. So it is one of their so-called the higher end cooler models, higher end AIB models, and I got this used for I think 2 years ago for about 500 Singapore dollars, 500 SGD. So on my other video, so on my used like the cheapest used GPU video, I actually did a feature about the 6800 XT because it is one of the best value GPUs in the 300 to 400 Singapore dollar range. It is the same as the 3080 10GB. So right now you can find them on carousell selling used for about 400 Singapore dollars, and about 400 Singapore dollars it actually outperforms the, I believe, the 5600 the 9060 XT. Yeah, so in terms of performance it actually outperforms the 9060 XT. We can actually take a look here, maybe 6800 XT. So if you go to Tech Power Up and you check out their specs, so Tech Power has this relative performance comparison here. If you actually see 6800 XT is 100% here. If you scroll down, I believe the 9060 XT 16GB is about, based on Tech Power Up's estimation, is about 12% slower than the 6800 XT. So it has the same amount of VRAM, 16GB, and yet it performs better than a brand new GPU that is more expensive. Because the cheapest 9060 XTs, I believe, based on my earlier video, I think the cheapest I could find it for the month of August was about 525 Singapore dollars. So that is $100 more. Obviously, for buying a used GPU like the 6800 XT, you are not going to get warranty, and you might have to like disassemble it and repaste and clean the GPU yourself. So there is that. But other than that, this is a really good value GPU. So I'm testing it today to see how it performs in 2025 against some of the modern games. Through this actually experience, I find that actually benchmarking is very time intensive. So I'm doing this split screen kind of review style, inspired by Daniel Owen, one of the YouTube channels I watch a lot, and he does a lot of split screen comparison. So yeah, I came out with a template, and I'll be doing more of the videos in the split screen style as well, because this is really I think it's nice because you do see some action, you do see some gameplay of recorded footage on the screen, and then you could compare like the resolution side by side, like freeze frame here. Yeah, if it's on the same scene, so you could see like you could pause the video and compare it side by side, whether it is clearer on the left side, on the right side, and so on. How is the image quality comparing to each other, and what's the FPS, right, and the performance. Okay, so first I'm gonna I have benchmarked a few games, and if we take a look at my okay, let me try and get my spreadsheet out. Give me a moment. Okay. So this is the spreadsheet that I made, which compiles all the results. So this is my testing specs. So the 6800 XT was tested on an AM5 platform with a CPU, the budget CPU 7400F. So 7400F, you can easily find them on AliExpress, I believe. They are the downbin version of the 7500F, which is also another downbin version of the 7600 and 7600X. So for RAM wise, I'm running 32GB of 6000 CL36. This is one of the cheapest 6000 mega transfers RAM I could find in the market. And for the motherboard, I'm using a very budget and cheap MSI Pro A620M-E. I think this doesn't have Wi-Fi. I think it's no Wi. Does it have Wi-Fi? I'm not too sure. But anyway, Actually, I think it does come with Wi-Fi. So this is really cheap motherboard. I bought it from Amazon.sg for about 110 to 120 Singapore dollars. But that was, I believe, half a year, at the beginning of the year. So I don't know about the prices now, but it's a very cheap motherboard. So all in all, this is a very cheap PC. I don't know the full price list, but I think this PC, you can easily get it for, including the GPU, for around 1,500 to maybe about 1,300 Singapore dollars, because many of these parts are really on the lower end, not say low end in terms of performance. They are mid-range, but they're not too expensive. Okay, so all the results are here. I've tested Doom Dark Ages in 4K. All the games I've tested in 4K, 1440p, as well as 1080p. I've tested Stormgate. This is one of my, right now, one of my favorite RTS games. Cyberpunk 2077, which is the benchmarker's favorite. It is because it's so commonly benchmarked. So I believe it is a good game to include, so you can compare the performance in Cyberpunk from my videos compared to those of other reviewers, to see how the other GPUs stack up. Helldivers 2, recently they released a new update, so I believe more people are going to come back into Helldivers 2. And then the Oblivion, Skyrim 4, no, not Skyrim, I mean Elder Scrolls 4, I believe, Oblivion Remastered version. So this is a very demanding game, just released this year, runs on the Unreal Engine 5. It's so demanding that you could see that, the FPS is not that great. Okay, so this is the chart. You can pause it and then take a look at all the comparisons here if you want, and I'll move on to the side by side. So first side by side I have here is Doom the Dark Ages, also a game that's released this year. So pretty depends. So now it's at 1080p. So obviously for the 6800 XT, it has no problems running at 1080p. The 7400F is basically mid-range CPU. Obviously doesn't perform as well as any of the X3D CPUs, but it should be comparative performance to the 5800 X3D or the 5700 X3D on the AM4 platform. So that is the best gaming CPUs you could get on the AM4 platform, and they're comparable to about the 7400F to the 7600X in terms of FPS, roughly around that. Okay, so that was 1080p. So you could see Ultra TAA here means is the native performance. So at native, we could get only about 66 FPS, right, at native 1080p. But if we know, that's where upscaling is really, really useful. So when you upscale, you don't see a lot of degradation in the image quality. Maybe if an eager eye, you could see a little bit more pixelation and more blurriness on the picture on the right. It's because this has FSR quality applied. That means the default resolution of this is less than 1080p, but in gameplay, you are not going to notice much because most of the effects actually still look similar. Obviously, I believe this is FSR 3 because 6800 XT is not the latest, it's not RDNA 4, right? So you're not going to get the benefit of FSR 4, and I do not know whether FSR 4 will be coming over to this. But 1080p native, it is playable. FSR quality, it is better. I will use FSR quality. Then if you want even more FPS, you could all the way go down to FSR performance. But if you go down to FSR performance, you could see, it is a little bit more pixelated on the left. But I mean, in game, in motion, I do notice a little bit of like blurriness. You can like when it's in motion, like the game looks slightly better on the right hand side as compared to the left. It looks a little bit more blurry. So that's because at FSR performance, you're going through a way lower resolution before they do any image sharpening on it. So that is that. So 6800 XT definitely has no issues playing this highly demanding game at 1080p. And quick side note is if you notice the VRAM usage, so this is the amount of VRAM that's used, even at like 1080p FSR performance. Anyway, this is on ultra preset. You can notice that the VRAM usage is 11 gigabytes. So it is quite a lot. So there is a modern game that takes up quite a fair bit of VRAM. So if you are interested in playing any of these modern 2025 games, that's why many of the YouTubers and reviewers have mentioned that try your best to not use a GPU with less than like 12 gigabytes of VRAM, for example. Because even at 1080p, it does take up a significant amount of VRAM, like 11 gigabyte. Obviously, I think the game will be playable at like using an 8 gigabyte GPU, but you probably will might be stuttering, might be missing textures. I don't know. So I haven't really benchmarked this game or played this game extensively using an 8 gigabyte GPU. So I don't know what's the limitation of the VRAM there. Moving on to 1440p, at native, you can see that the 6800XT really struggles at 1440p with the 7400F. We cannot get even 50 FPS, so that means 60 FPS is not attainable. It's only attainable if we apply FSR quality to it. So at 1440p, if you apply FSR quality, then you could get a relatively smooth playable experience at 60 FPS. Obviously, for FPS, some people might like even more frame rates per second, more frames per second, but I mean, this is a single player title, so you're not very competitive. So I believe at 60 FPS, in my experience, it seems pretty playable. Like I enjoy the game decently well. Okay, so if you want even more FPS and 1440p, you have to go to FSR performance, where you have to downgrade the image clarity even more, like it looks even more. I believe if you really study it, like it will look more blurry on the left hand side of the screen compared to right side, which is FSR quality. So, but you could actually go up all the way up to 80 over FPS, which is what we had at 1080p. I believe earlier at FSR quality is about 80 over FPS. So yeah, so that's that. Okay, so that is Doom: The Dark Ages. Certainly playable, but at 1440p, but definitely playable at 1080p. But at 1440p, you have to use upscaling. What if you are trying to run the game at the highest resolution possible, which is typically 4K. So at 4K native, you can see that we really struggle. We only managed to get about 27 FPS, and you can see the VRAM usage is really high. So obviously, a lot of YouTubers and reviewers have mentioned that the higher the resolution you go, the more VRAM you will use, and this is indeed true based on my testing with the 6800 XT, because back at 1080p we were only using about 11 gigabytes of VRAM, but now at 4K we are using up to 13 gigabytes of VRAM. Even with FSR quality on the right hand side of the screen, we are still using close to 13 gigabytes of VRAM. It's 12.5, so you run it off, it's like 13 gigabytes of VRAM. But yeah, it really struggles. So a native is only 27 FPS. I wouldn't say that is playable. There's a lot of like you can see, like it's not a slideshow, but yeah, it's not a playable experience. Even at FSR quality at 42 FPS, I also wouldn't really enjoy that. Like if you can notice, like the images on the screen, it is kind of jittery, especially when enemies are shooting and all that. It is not smooth at all. So even like for this game, even though it's a single player game, I would try to target 60 FPS. And that's where at 4K, you could actually go all the way down to FSR performance, use as much upscaling as possible, and we could get close to 60 FPS. So there, I mean, with this older GPU, some sacrifices have to be made. And on the right side of the screen, you can see that it's a lot smoother at close to 60 FPS as compared to the left side of the screen is a lot smoother compared to the right side at FSR quality. So if I'm using the 1600 XT and I do need to play Doom: The Dark Ages at 4K, I will definitely be going all the way down to FSR performance in order to still maintain that 4K resolution, but get around 60 FPS, which is definitely more playable on the left hand side of the screen. Okay, and let's move on to the next game. So Stormgate, it's a relatively early release title, so to say. They to add some background to it, there's not a lot of concurrent players with it, but some of the devs from StarCraft 2, the ex Blizzard devs from StarCraft 2, left Blizzard after their leadership change and all that, and they started their own studios called Frost Giant Studios. So they crowdfunded to develop this game Stormgate, which is technically a successor to StarCraft 2. Many of the mechanics, how the game plays, is very similar to StarCraft 2. And yeah, it's still in, I would say, not even beta. I'm not too sure. They have officially like launched the game, so technically it's not beta, but there's a lot of room for improvement. Like the optimization is not very good, and the graphics don't look very good as well. You can see that the textures look kind of like PlayStation 2s, so like really poor texture quality. Even though they are playable, like the game is definitely smooth enough, but you can see that optimization is not very good. No, at 4K resolution, you can see 4K native. By the way, there's no upscaling enabled inbuilt for this, so there is a lot of work from the devs, but I believe it's only a 3 or 4 man dev team, so they are quite limited. 4K default is TSR native. We're only running at about 37 FPS. You can see 39 FPS in game, so my average was like 37, 38 FPS. So even though it's kind of playable, but it's not a very smooth experience. But for RTS, I think at 30 FPS, technically it is playable at 4K. But I would say if definitely better to run this game at 1440p, because you don't really need the really high textures. Even if you have a 4K panel, I believe running at 1440p, you should be able to enjoy this game a lot better, because you are running this game at about 65.7 FPS. Okay, so yeah, you can. It's not, the graphics are not that great, a lot of room for improvement, but in terms of gameplay, I'm enjoying it. It is pretty similar to StarCraft 2. It gives a new spin on the units and so on, and they do have 3 races, and they play somewhat similarly to Zerg Terran as well as Protoss. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so now I'm comparing 1440p to 1080p. So definitely, if you are using a 1600 XT to play Stormgate at 1080p, there's no issues. So all these are at high graphical settings as well. So I'm averaging about 95 FPS with 1600 XT paired with the 7400F with 32GB of 6000 CL36 RAM. So there is that. So that is Stormgate, 1080p, no issues. Very playable, very smooth experience. But obviously, if you have a 1440p monitor, I would suggest running this at 1440p. Moving on, this is Cyberpunk 2077. So at 1080p, this is high settings, no ray tracing, because the 6000 series from AMD wasn't well known for its ray tracing capabilities. So I didn't run any of these benchmarks with any ray tracing, because that would take even more time, and it will complicate the runs and the benchmark results. So let's assume that you play this, if you're playing this game, is not going to have any ray tracing. So at 1080p high, definitely no problems. We can all the way go up to 130 FPS on the 7400F CPU. Then this is, if you want to get even more FPS, we could go to FSR 3 quality. But you could see, like, side by side, the image quality on the right hand side of the screen is definitely a lot blurry, a lot more pixelated on the right hand side. So I mean, at 1080p is really low enough resolution. Like 1080p high settings, it looks really good. So I wouldn't apply any like FSR, because it's definitely at high enough FPS. Okay, if you're playing at 1440p high, 1600 XT and the 7400F could run this game perfectly fine as well. So you can see that we are averaging about 90 FPS at 1440p high. That is native, no upscaling. If you want even more FPS, if you are running at, I mean, if you have a 1440p maybe high refresh rate panel, like 144 Hz or 160 Hz panel, you want slightly higher refresh rate to get the extra smoothness, you can apply FSR 3 quality to it. Image quality wise, I don't see a very big difference between both the left and right side of the screen. If you really pause, you could see that yes, at native, the image quality it is indeed better. But I mean, in game, I probably wouldn't notice that much of a downgrade in image quality. So FSR 3 quality if you want a higher FPS. But in my personal opinion, I would play it at a higher image quality at 1440p native. Okay, so moving on to 4K. So if you have a 4K panel and you're playing Cyberpunk, 1600 XT is definitely still capable. It's not that capable at native. You can see that at native, no ray tracing and anything. We're running into 45 FPS, so it's not the best gaming experience. It is kind of stuttery, but once you apply FSR3 quality to it, that you could easily get a 60 FPS experience. So I average around 70.8 FPS. So if you have a 4K screen, and if you have the 1600 XT and you want to play at 4K, definitely no problems. Just apply FSR3 quality, right? So upscaling is our good friend here. You can see the VRAM usage is actually exceeding 8GB as well. So once you hit 4K, even for a much older game like Cyberpunk 2077, I'm using almost 10GB of VRAM at 4K native, and with upscaling we are exceeding 9GB, so still around 9 to 10GB of VRAM used. Okay, then next game we're talking about Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is one of the multiplayer games which is a little bit hard to benchmark, so results are not as consistent because I've been running this benchmark in-game on different maps, on different multiplayer sessions. So yeah, it's not the most accurate run, but it is a pretty good estimation of what you will experience in-game. Okay, so at 1080p high, definitely no problems. We are averaging close to 100 FPS. If you want even more FPS, you want a higher refresh rate experience, you could apply FSR quality to it, and we could get average of 130 FPS. So definitely very playable at 1080p. 1600 XT is definitely a very capable 1080p GPU, and I would argue that it's also a pretty decent 1440p GPU. Just that when it comes to 4K, it would struggle on a little bit. Okay, so now we are running tests at 1440p, Helldivers 2. Even at 1440p high native, like I mentioned, it's very capable. We could run above 60 FPS, no problem. So we are averaging about 76.8 FPS. If you want even higher FPS, if you're running a 1440p higher refresh rate monitor, then you can apply FSR quality. And because this is a pretty hectic and fast-paced game, I really don't notice the quality, like the visual difference between the two. Yeah, if you really pause and study like the textures and all that, definitely it looks sharper at 1440p native. But yeah, like if you want more FPS, I think running at FSR quality should be fine. And I believe this should be FSR 3 as well. In-game, it doesn't state which version of FSR this is, but honestly, I'm not too sure whether it's FSR 2 or 3. I just hope that it's FSR 3, right? So that's why I didn't label it, because I honestly don't know which FSR version it is. Okay, moving on to 4K. So if we're playing Helldivers 2 at 4K on the 1600 XT, at native, it is not that feasible anymore. It's only running at 42.5 FPS, so the experience is not that good. It's kind of stuttery, but once you apply FSR quality to it, it is very playable on the 4K monitor, so at 76 FPS. So I would say 1600 XT technically is playable. Many of the modern games you can play it at 4K, just that you have to use upscaling in order to get a reasonable experience. Okay. That's that. Then VRAM usage, once it hits 4K, it goes above 8GB of VRAM. So take note that Helldivers 2 is also not, it's also a older game as well. So even on the older games, we are seeing that VRAM exceed 8GB once you go into the higher resolutions like 4K. Earlier at 1440p, did it exceed? Wait, let me backtrack a bit. Yeah, at 1440p, we are hitting the limits of 8GB of VRAM. So technically 8GB GPU still can run Helldivers 2 at 1440p. Okay. Next game, I guess. So that's FSR 2. Oh, this one has sound. So next up, this is Oblivion, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. Remastered in Unreal Engine 5. It is pretty demanding. So this is the kind of FPS you would expect if you're gonna buy any of the AAA like titles coming out in 2025 or next year coming into 2026, because Unreal Engine 5 is going to be the dominant system here dominant rendering engine that people use for their modern AAA titles. And at 1080p, definitely no issues. 1080p high, which is TAA, is kind of like considered native because they don't really have a native. They have TAA, and then after that is upscaling. applied. So at 77 FPS, 78 FPS, 1080p, definitely very playable. This is a single player title, so yeah, definitely very smooth experience. If you apply FSR quality at 1080p, you get even smoother experience at around 90 FPS. Definitely, this game is demanding. Even at 1080p, even with upscaling, I don't think we can hit like above 100 FPS on the 6800 XT and the 7400F. Maybe if you have a better CPU, an X3D CPU, maybe we could bump it a little bit higher. But it is very GPU demanding. So you can see that even at 1080p, the GPU usage is almost 100% all the way. So yeah, so we're probably more GPU bottleneck than anything. Okay, moving on to 1440p. So let me fast forward on the video. Okay, at 1440p native, we barely have a 60 FPS experience, so I'm averaging about 58.9 FPS, and that is not that's playable. That's not the best experience, but I would happily play like Oblivion Remastered at 60 FPS. I would say it is okay, but obviously if you want a little bit more FPS, you want a smoother gaming experience, I do notice that it is much more enjoyable if I apply FSR quality at 1440p for that no extra FPS bump. Okay, in this case here is mentioning 60 on one of the runs, so I think there is a bug with that run, but the rest of the runs on 1440p FSR quality, I'm averaging around 80 FPS, so that's what I believe should be the more accurate performance for the Oblivion Remastered at 1440p high FSR quality on the 6800 XT. Okay, then moving on, let me fast forward. I think what's next should be 4K. So at 4K, if you are playing Oblivion Remastered at 4K native on the 6800 XT, that is native is not a good experience. So I'm chunking, like you can see on the left side of the screen, it's really chunky because we're only averaging at 34 FPS. So yeah, it is not a smooth experience at all. So definitely if you're playing at 4K, I would say, yeah, at least try FSR quality. But even at FSR quality, we're still not hitting 60 FPS. I'm averaging about 50.8 FPS. But I would say with FSR quality at 4K, even at 50 FPS, it is definitely playable for me. I could see myself playing this game for a long time on 40K on 4K resolution at 50 FPS, because yeah, for a single player game I don't need that high of a refresh rate as long as the gameplay feels smooth and responsive enough. And yeah, it's definitely playable at 4K with FSR quality. I believe you could like increase the FSR, you could go FSR probably performance if you want even higher frame rate there as well. Okay, so there is that. Then yep, so there is a 6800 XT benchmarked in 2025. Specifically, this is the Sapphire Nitro Plus version. And yeah, so there's that for this so-called benchmark of it. If you would like to see more GPUs benchmark, I have actually 3070s, I have 3070 Ti's. Based on old GPUs, I have 3090s. I do not have a 3080, unfortunately. I have 6800 non-XTs. I have a 6600 XT. So in terms of CPUs, I have a 5600 that I just bought, a used 5600 AM4 CPU. I have 7800 X3D, I have the 7400F, I have the 7600X, but it's pretty similar. 7600X, 7400F, pretty similar. So if you like to see me benchmark any of the other older GPUs or mid-range CPUs, please leave a comment and stay subscribed. And yep, I will come to it when I have the time. Alright, so thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.